we just played PAX Emancipation. We're calling this First Impressions, even though it's none of our first game.
It feels like
it's basically the first game. I played this when it first came out, just like enough to learn it, so that I could teach it in the PAX Unplugged, and I think you were involved with that.
Yeah.
Did you teach this to anybody?
Yes, I did.
So you at one point in the past did know it.
I knew it enough to teach it. Yes. But teaching a game and knowing how to like properly play the game is two different things. Like knowing how to what to do and all of that is different. But in any case, this is I think our first for real game of this. Joe has played a for real game before. So what would you think?
I enjoyed it. Like, it makes me, since I haven't played PAX Transhumanity, it makes me want to play PAX Transhumanity now because of how everybody talks about it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a nice, like, I like the way this handles the card row differently. Like, it feels like a PAX game while also feeling different in how it does things in an interesting way. Like, it's nice, like, to see them doing other things while still retaining the overall feel of what a PAX game is.
Yeah, the biggest difference is that it eliminates the tableau that you're used to having.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it does it, but tying that into the economy and making everything flow together, like, just eliminating the tableau is not something that can be easily done without fundamentally altering, like, a number of aspects of the game. And so making that all happen right is a thing.
So you've played all the PAXs except Transhumanity.
Yep.
And of those, where does this fall?
That's a good question. So basically, I haven't played PAX Premier 2nd Edition either.
Oh, I thought you had played that. Okay.
No, we talked about it.
So it's, would you say then that it's last on? I imagine it's last on your list in that scenario, or is it? Do you like it more than Porfiriana? Clearly, so PAX Renaissance is your favorite.
PAX Renaissance is my favorite. PAX Premier is number 2.
Second favorite.
Yeah, yes. 100%. Okay. Like, no contest. Really am not a fan of Porfiriana. I don't know. Yeah, okay. I just don't like Porfiriana to me has the same feel, like, and once again, not that it's the same game, but it is a very similar feel to playing something like Munchkin.
Where I've called it Mexican Munchkin.
I'm just flipping cards off the deck to try and see the thing that matters. And other than flipping cards off the deck to see the things that matter, like, that's the whole game, and I can play it. And
that was also Bios Origins First Edition.
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah. And so here's the thing: you're not wrong. It is, and I have endearingly, and people don't like it when I refer to that. I have endearingly called it Mexican Munchkin. I think that story, that game tells the best story of any of the PAXs.
Well, it's better than Munchkin for sure.
Yes, it's Munchkin done well, but I feel like it tells the best story of any of the PAXs. That narrative arc there. I've had some of the best experiences playing Porfiriana. Joe and I have had some very good experiences playing Porfiriana.
It's the only one I feel like I don't have any interest in playing.
Right? Is it really? It's interesting because Porfiriana is, I think, consensus considered still the best PAX. It's definitely people's favorite PAX. That's the people that I know.
Is, I will happily play it if it's what people want to play. But if you're asking me which PAX I want to play, I will always say one of the other ones and never say Porfiriana. But I don't dislike the game. It's just not the one that I would choose if I'm choosing which one is being played.
Yeah, I it's weird that it seems that I like Porfiriana more than either of you, but I think it's a fun game. It's definitely
fun. I think a lot of the popularity has to do with the barrier to entry, though.
The accessibility of it.
I think that's why. I mean, I think that's why everyone likes PAX Premier 2nd Edition more than the first. Yeah. When I say everyone likes, I think it's
you talk about narrative
more
arc,
sensible. It's easier to understand.
No, you're right. It's the most
pretty.
PAX Renaissance to me has the best narrative arcs because you absolutely have his family comes in and overthrows the royal family that I've set up to control, and then they switch allegiances, and now they're attacking the other kingdom. Like, you totally have that.
I don't know. It's a lot more. It's a lot more. I feel with Renaissance, it's a lot more. The scope is bigger, and I think because the scope is bigger, it feels less like you're. The individual stories feel more marginalized. Right, like in Porfiriana, it feels like I have this range.
Every dirty trick that happened.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
depicted.
Yeah.
But I mean, the scope, you have the same thing. It's just happening on the level of nations rather than on the level of...
You're right.
Yeah, that's cool, but we're also like...
Yeah, but exactly. 100%. So as far as it goes, I think I like this better than Porphyriana.
Okay.
But Porphyriana is easier to play, and I could see ending up playing it more than playing this. 100%.
I think so. I mentioned this in my Transhumanity review. I think that this is. I had only played it enough to learn it, and I had no interest in really playing it further. Yeah. And it was on Jess's top 20 on heavy cardboard, so I wanted to give it another shot. That, and having played Transhumanity and really enjoying Transhumanity, I wanted to give this another shot because I knew that there were some similarities. And I remember at the time, this was around Essen 2018. I also had played a prototype of Transhumanity and didn't really dig that too much either. And I felt like maybe I should go back to this. It's still my least favorite PAX. It's still like, I had done a ranking of Sierra Madre games. It's still near the bottom of the list of all Sierra Madre games that I played. But I definitely think that it's one of those games where if I played it more, that there could be more in there. There's a lot of things that I didn't like. The length of it, I think is I think it's overlong for what it is.
Well, I think if we played it again, like getting through the first two decks,
it was definitely slow. But I don't necessarily mean the length. I mean, like, I think there's not enough of a arc in this game. I feel like, so you're doing the competitive, you're doing the cooperative phase, and then everyone's trying to meet your victory conditions, and then you do a little bit more to the competitive phase. But it doesn't really feel like there's and you're flipping over the people, and then things happen. I don't know. It just felt like I don't feel like I get from this game what is like the time investment that is put into, because this can be like a 4 to 6 hour game. Like, and yes, even if you're quick about it, it's maybe 2 to 4 hours. But as compared to the other PAXs, which a game of Premier Furiana can be like 45 minutes. But there's that. I don't feel like, I really genuinely do like semi-cooperative games. Yeah. I really like, this is what actually pulled me to trying this again, is I do, on paper it sounds cool, the idea that we all have to work together, but there's still going to be one winner. I always appreciate a game. Yeah. Some of my favorite games have that. In fact, all of my favorite games have some measure of that. But I didn't really feel it here. No.
Like this, it didn't feel like we were working together. It just felt like things I was doing to earn points also helping to get you closer to your victory condition.
It didn't feel compelling. Like I was, I'm going to have to do that to help him, but I also need to do this. There were some elements where it's like...
We also apparently had a really easy game.
I want to interject because you can play a cooperative variant in which you either win as a group or not.
Yes.
We're not playing that way, so there's absolutely very little cooperation going on. Yeah. In fact, implicitly decided we were playing the Malthusian variant. Even if we had played the competitive variant, it's essentially not really a cooperative game. Yeah. Because you're just trying to ensure that you avoid your counter enlightenment and have the best score afterwards. To me, that's almost a zero cooperative.
But even if, we all met our victory conditions, and then we would have played. And yes, we ended up deciding to play just the Malthusian variant, which is basically the cooperative game, and then scoring our points, because it didn't feel like playing. Well,
my deal is I don't worry about playing the other era, knowing that I'm still learning this game.
Yes,
and knowing that a lot of my earlier choices were not.
I think the point is, but I think my point is, it didn't feel like a semi-cooperative game.
We didn't play one, is my argument. I think the only version of this game that's actually cooperative is just the cooperative version.
Does the cooperative version do things to make the game harder? Because I feel like if it did that and it really forces people to cooperate in what they're doing, this could be an interesting cooperative game.
Yeah, I think the only thing it does is basically say that the tyrannies, which are 5 berries or more, they do not avoid frustrated hate. So you're just more likely to have more anarchy spreading.
Okay.
But then what you're trying to do is get 50 points or more for a marginal victory, then 75 or more for a total victory, and that's as a group.
Yeah. And see,
so that makes it a true competitive game, a cooperative game, because in that case, you will do whatever you need to do to help everyone the most.
And that's, like, honestly, that's the thing I would do the next time playing it. Like, I could see, like, if it was me, Dominic, and Rosie, because this is a game she would get into, like, not playing this competitively at all, but playing it as a straight cooperative game, I would see them enjoying that experience, and that's how I would
Does
get
it
this on
so
the table.
okay? But then here's the thing, and here's the next thing. If it was a cooperative game, and I was actually considering this myself, does it? To me, a cooperative a good cooperative game is a game where I win 1 out of 10 times.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Does it make it harder?
And it seems from our play that isn't the case in this game.
So it seemed like, from what Joe said, we had a really easy game on what was going on.
If player red doesn't put out the number of Marines you did, or if
why don't they? Like you said before, last time you played,
if the failed revolution had happened in a place where we had done a lot of work, and then it regressed to its starting game state. I mean, the last time I played, that happened, and we essentially couldn't stop the spread of anarchy.
It seems, and again, more plays would tell. That's why this isn't, necessarily an in-depth review. But it doesn't. I don't know. A cooperative game. If we had played this as a cooperative game, we would have won.
I'm going to fall on a different side. I don't care to play this as a cooperative game. I think that would be fine for learning, for introducing the game, and maybe that's something I'll do with people that aren't more versed in PAX games or complicated mechanics. To me, I actually like the Malthusian variant. I would be fine with playing the full split thing. But what I like about this is thinking, the way I'm going to win is not by being cooperative. It's to make sure I meet my condition, and it would be actually ideal if someone else didn't do it. And then for me, all I need to do is
I would agree with you. I was actually pushing for this variant. I think I don't really see, and as much as I enjoy the idea of we have to work together and then we can compete, it just doesn't seem like it's compelling.
I think the one benefit, so in the advanced game, a lot of the game cycle is about setting up plays to get revolutions to launch and then succeed, and that takes a fair bit of effort. So I think what the full game variant does is allow a mid-game striding towards making that happen in areas that were hitherto unavailable, and so at least by extending it 6 more rounds for each player, they get the opportunity to get that same payoff that maybe one other player got earlier because they had a lead in one of these Western spheres.
So very quickly to go over our sides. I played the Parliament, so I basically was just trying to put dudes out on the board, and you played...
I played the Philanthropist, so I have the best money manipulation, and I was wanting to get guys on cards to do ops because it costs me less to do it, essentially, because I get to pull them from
and
debt.
you were religious zealots.
Yeah, I was spreading the good word, and it didn't cost me any money to post, so I was going out and getting murdered by people that were resistant to change.
And what did you feel about your roles? Like, I felt mine was pretty straightforward. I mean, I'm just essentially putting... I was just trying to put dudes out on the board and trying to... get my action economy to a point where I could do the things. I think I concentrated on trying to get that factory out early, and
I think that factory is the thing that gave you any standard.
And that was actually what I was. And yes, I did kind of try to find where I would get a revolution so that I could do that, like a revolution that was about to tip, so that I can do that, and then kind of make my shipbuilding cheaper and getting my disease chips and stuff like that. But for the most part, pretty straightforward faction. Did either of you find yours to be?
Mine felt pretty versatile. Like, having better money just means it's easier to do.
If you can see how many agents he has left on his board versus what we've got.
Yeah, I had like 2 or 3, and he had Like
one thing I'll say that I thought was interesting you didn't think about doing, which probably is just familiar to the game, but as the Parliament, what you can do is you can do plebiscite and legislate actions and then capture our agents to put on your finance board, which either gives you more money and or makes us go out of our way to try and
It's a thing that I asked about early on in the game, because I was like, I could take that, but it seemed really expensive. It didn't seem like it was worth it.
Well, one thing that also happened in this particular play that was interesting was that the 2 bottom cards in the market, which are the 0-cost cards to syndicate, initially got loaded up with a bunch of agents and then didn't get lost. So it was fairly expensive to syndicate those up to 9 gold.
Yeah.
Whereas the cards right above them were 1.
Yeah.
So those cards didn't get plebiscited or lawsuited because it would have cost 9 gold to do that.
Right.
Whereas cards above them that had no agents were just
this
going
one
for
never
free.
left the game at all. We never rolled a 1 to get rid of it, and it had 4 actions on it, so all the pawns are going to want to be there. Like, yeah, just when the best cards are at the bottom and people get on them right away, nobody rolls a 1.
Another issue was that you, as the philanthropist, were trying to claim barriers. He was only 1 off from
I was
his...
2 where we ended up.
2 off from his victory requirement. And one of the reasons why, we looked at it, there was only 2 suffrage ops that had come out for the whole first half
the Western
of the game.
cards, yeah.
Well, in the Eastern. I was looking through all of them. There was just no... And that's the main way to claim those without doing revolutions. So... The card flop in the market can make a big difference on play to play, I think.
Like, I had a fairly hard game meeting my condition as far as it went. Like, I had to make sure I was in revolutions. I had to get on, like, I had to pay to get on to that one guy.
Yours did, you did seem like you were struggling, and I felt like it was pretty easy
yours
for me. So what did you think, Joe, compared to other packs? Because you've played all the packs.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that I have a full grasp of Pax Transhumanity. I understand it better having played this, because of just how the way these splays work and kind of the similarities there.
Well, and again, this is a first impression. What do you think based on that?
I think this is pretty interesting. The main thing I want to know is if it's worth it to me, as someone who's becoming an expert in this game, the amount of teaching that you have to do to make other people get into it, I think, is the one prohibitive thing.
And
mechanically and thematically, I find it intriguing and definitely worthy of examining.
I think that would be the biggest issue with this game for me, is just the fact that it has with Pax Preferiana, I have that giant player aid that I put out, but you don't really need to know any of that stuff. I feel like there's so much in this game that even Renaissance, which is famously opaque, is not as complex as this.
This was the single hardest game I have tried to learn for my own purposes, and that's I've learned Republic of Rome, although I wasn't leading that teach. I learned Arkwright, although the first time I wasn't leading that teach, but this, without a doubt, unraveling all the interconnections and trying to figure out the minutiae was the most difficult.
And I guess the question with that is it worth it? Like, did that investment? Because we've played. Fire in the Lake, for example, took us like dozens of hours. I'd say probably like 40 hours of like going through it and learning all the things. But the game is amazing. Like, I enjoyed every bit of that. Do you get the reward from your time of investment in this game? Did you feel like it was worth it? Do you feel like so far it's been worth it? Do you feel like it's...
I had a lot of free time on vacation to sit down and really just soak in the rules. Not only from hey, I want to learn this game, but just like, how does this crazy thing work? But if I was just trying to learn this throughout the week to teach it on the weekend, I think I would find it pretty stressful. So I enjoyed my way that I did that.
And this definitely helped. Thank you for teaching.
Of course. Whatever. But so, this is... He didn't have to invest any time other than sitting down and learning for an hour.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, this for me, I was not interested in picking this up at all. And now that we've played like a real legit game, like as I said, I can see a scenario where I would get it on the table outside of playing it with you, where I'm playing your copy. So I may actually buy this where I wasn't looking to pick it up before, after this. Like, once again, because I know I have a group where the people would be interested enough in the theme, and playing the cooperative version would get people over their aversion to the learning hump of these games, to where I could actually get it played. So this actually got me like to a much better place with it than I was just looking at it before. And the one read through the rules.
For me, it's still my least favorite PAX. I just want to play PAX Transhumanity more. Everything that I saw, it's weird because I was while we were playing this game, I'm like, okay, so that's like PAX Transhumanity but worse. In every case, I was saying like that's PAX Transhumanity, but like it feels like PAX Transhumanity is just a more elegant version of this game. And let it be said, it's not at all like this game. There's some similarities with like, some of the things, the viability and the finance board.
I would go so far as to say PAX Transhumanity has half as much game as this one does. Not that it's half as much good game or half as much bad game, just length, amount of stuff going on. It's probably about half of this.
I think that it is definitely half as half as much stuff is going on, I think that it is perhaps a better game because of that. I feel like
I'd say that probably just comes down to user's
personal
choice.
preference. Yeah,
I think that you're going to get a lot more use out of that game. And
I think the game is a lot more elegant. I feel like a lot of the ideas. I feel like honestly, this game took and it's true. Like Phil took a lot of ideas from other games for this game, and I feel like it's kind of like a little bit of a mishmash. You have the elephant moving around. You have like the viability and the finance and. All of it feels like he kind of like cherry picks certain things and kind of I don't know. It doesn't mesh to me as well as the other games do. Is it a game I'm happy to play anytime anyone wants to play it? Sure, I'd be happy to play this again anytime y'all wanted to play it. Would I pick it over any other PAX or really any other Sierra Madre game that I would play again? I mean, there's some Sierra Madre games that I'm not going to play Battlespec Megafauna 1 again ever by itself.
Yeah.
That's never happening. But of the games that I would, play again, like this isn't high on the list. But still, even on the list of Sierra Madre games, this is still like better than almost any game that I would play that isn't a Sierra
My
Madre
biggest
game.
complaint about this game currently, other than the overhead of trying to figure it out, I think it feels like it's just not clean to understand. And to illustrate that, I'll just use the example of the elephant. If you do an action or op that moves the elephant, you've met the requirement for this turn. But then, possibly much later in your turn, if you haven't done anything, then you make a roll and it randomly moves and does something. And that something about that just feels a little unclean. I understand why it makes the game work, but I think that contributes to all these things that interlock in different portions of each player's turn can make it feel so laborious to make sure you do everything correctly.
I want to bring up one thing. How did you feel? So, a quick recap of the game. Jacob won. We were roughly in the same. Like we were pretty close. We were 1 point apart, and then you kind of ran away with it at the end with like an extra dozen points.
Yeah.
Joe was kind of not really in it after a bad roll that. Ruined a revolution that you did.
I was really invested in. I had a lot of pieces in Japan. There was a revolution going on. I had 2 of the 3 agents, and it was viable. More or less set up on my next turn to make it succeed. It got diffused and failed, which just all my pieces are lost, and they go back to my pool and no reward. So at that point, I was essentially out of the game. More or less.
How do you feel about that?
Not great, but
a single roll being able to cause that.
Yeah, I don't feel great about it, but. I think that's part of the learning curve. So I got involved in the thing that's going to be in the East Market. Things in the East Market are more likely to be booted out from things in the West Market. I think there's chances to set up and do things where you can make sure revolutions are an instant success. I think there's a lot of caveats around that. I don't want to just say, oh, that's annoying, bad game mechanic, because I don't think I understand how to look for those things well enough yet. And that, to me, is more encouraging than just saying, I don't like that, I'm done. But I'm someone that's already.
I've already seen ways to try and mitigate it depending on the cards that are out. As far as
Right.
like if there's an arrow, finding a hammer or the clapping hands, and then moving a card out of the road to slide the arrow down without it triggering it, and then getting it in a safe zone of a couple no arrow cards, and you've got turns. Like there are ways of manipulating the card row.
I'm excited that there can be a legitimate skill threshold in this game that I could work towards achieving. It's one of the things I like about PAX Renaissance.
Yeah.
It's something I don't feel like I get as much in PAX Porphyrianis. It feels a lot more just like luck and chaos.
PAX Porphyrion is definitely a tactical game. It's probably perhaps the most tactical PAX. And it's really just, that's almost, to me, the beer and pretzels PAX, right? That's
And I've enjoyed many games.
And we've played it as a beer and pretzels PAX. We played it when people were, had a few too many. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll give one more pro and one more con. I'll start with the con. I feel like the graphic design in this game did not help. This game is already difficult to learn. And all the icons are like the same color, and the shapes aren't very distinguished from like far away. A lot of the things kind of like trying to see the circles from the squares and stuff like that. For a game that's already as you said, the most difficult game. It's not helpful compared to like Transhumanity, where the art there is actually very very helpful. Kareem Shakroon, does an excellent job on all of this stuff that he does, and that's the thing that kind of hinders this a little bit, but it comes in this box.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still love that the packs, most of them, come in a box this big and has so much game in such a little box. Like, I love the idea still, and the same thing with Renaissance, of these cards as the map, and the fact that they can flip over, and you can't really have that with like a board. I love just all of the production elements that make this like a tiny game. I still think that's great, that you can still fit this in, a big pocket and play it anywhere. I love the same thing with Transhumanity. I love that I can just pack that and have like a solid game, or Premiere, or any of those. So it's fantastic. It's what made me fall in love with PAX Premiere, which Porfiriana, when I first played it, I was kind of mad on, but then I played Premiere and it was amazing, and the fact that it came in a little box was amazing, and I still think it's amazing, 5 years later. And it's great. I love that about these games. I love that they're big games in little boxes, and I'm still happy to play this, still happy to play any of them, just not as much as the others. So, everyone good with their thoughts? Cool. Well, that was PAX Emancipation.